Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Again, if you need help with Phase 2, hit up residency.teachable.com for my Phase 2 course, and I will help you one-on-one with your letters of intent, or just email me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com if you've got questions. So I wanted to do a quick overview of the rankings for Phase 1. This doesn't include the Phase 2 stats, and what happens usually with the Phase 2 stats is that a lot of the traditionally U.S. News and World Report higher number schools will tend to make more progress and kind of go up quite a bit in the rankings. But it's just an opportunity to kind of look at some schools that get a little bit overlooked in that rankings because it's really skewed towards the publics and really kind of doesn't acknowledge the private schools quite as much. So I wanted to first explain the difference between the match rate and then the second rate, which I put in, which is, how many people were actually interested in residency enough to enroll in the match, but just didn't get an interview or just found that they didn't finish with the process. So this first one is the traditional match rate, and we'll go by 5 since it's, Sweet 16 time, or March Madness, we'll just do the top 25 in blocks of 5 and talk a little bit about them. So the first one, number 1 best matching school in the country in Phase 1 is a tie between University of Nebraska Medical Center and the University of Pittsburgh. I guess I could have actually, let's see who the actual winner was in University of Nebraska Medical Center, although I only did this to no decimal places. If you put the decimal places in there, then it works out that University of Nebraska Medical Center was 91.3, and then University of Pittsburgh was 90.74. But I'm going to kind of get rid of those because I think it makes it a little bit harder to read. So we'll just accept that it's around 91%, and Nebraska Omaha just edged out Pitt by just a little bit. But what's kind of fascinating is that University of Nebraska Medical Center is not in the top 15 in the U.S. News World Report, whereas Pittsburgh is number 13, yet it is one of the best schools to match at residency. So again, for you pre-pharmacy students, if you're looking to go into a residency, that particular list of schools is not really the way you want to go. What you really want to do is look at the match statistics, especially as it relates to the next slide, which I'll go into, which is number of people that enrolled and number of people that got it. So the average this year was 72%. And so we're kind of getting towards those medical school numbers where we're expecting schools to be in the 90s. So again, these schools, Nebraska Medical Center, Pitt, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Creighton. So a private school that usually gets overlooked in the U.S. News rankings, in my opinion, is here with an 89% match rate. So those are pretty significant. Ohio Northern, Wilkes, Toledo, Presbyterian, and Wisconsin make up the next 5, and only Wisconsin and is one of the ones that's in the U.S. News. So again, just kind of a bunch of overlooked schools. If you're really looking for residency, that list is just not congruent with what is the top group in the Phase 1 match. Now, when we get to Phase 2, it will be a little bit different. Next 5, Rhode Island, UCSD in San Diego, West Virginia, Sullivan, and Lebanese American University. So again, match rates 86%, 87% there. And again, just a number of schools that are not traditionally on that big list. I guess the big news, if you want to call it that, is that UNC is, and really, you're talking about a number that if just 1 or 2 more people matched, this number would go up, and it will in Phase 2. There are just a handful of UNC, a dozen of them, that were in the match, got an interview, but didn't match, and I'm sure they'll be back at it in Phase 2, and that is one of the highest matching schools in Phase 2. So number 16, UNC, Temple 17, 18 is Arkansas, Connecticut 19, and then University of New England rounding out to number 20. So again, a couple of privates in there that really don't get up that high in the U.S. News rankings, but definitely kudos to them. And then the last group, Thomas Jefferson, Iowa, Texas, Minnesota, and Missouri, Kansas City. Some of those are perennial powerhouses in terms of rankings, and I think Iowa's in the top 20. Austin is number 7. There's a huge tie for number 7. It's like 6 or 7 schools for number 7. And then Minnesota is tied for number 3 with Michigan. So again, if you're looking at your pharmacy school and like, wow, did I go to the right place? Well, if you tried to use that U.S. News report rankings to figure out residency matching rates, that's not where you want to go. You want to go right to ASHP. That's the place to go. But again, the match rate is a little bit misleading, because if only a few people got interviews, but a lot of those people matched, it makes it look like a school has a great match rate when a lot of people didn't get to match at all, and they really wanted to. So let's take a look at that rate and see what changes up, which makes a number of schools that you would expect to be at the top, that's where they are. So when you look at, again, that U.S. News and World Report list, a lot of those schools are now in the top group. So 1 through 5, and again, this is people that enrolled in the match, including those people that did not get an interview. And then of those, what percentage of them ended up matching. So Mississippi is at the very top here. It's 83%. And the average, so the average when you enroll and come in, is actually down here at 58%. So if you're below 58%, you're in bottom 50% of this group. If you're above 58%, you're in the top 50%. So when we look at numbers like 83, 82, and 81 for Mississippi, Pitt, and Rhode Island, that means that 80% or 4 out of 5 people that are like, I would like to do a residency. I'm going to enroll in the match. I'll see if I get an interview or everything. They got it. And then UNC number 4 and Thomas Jefferson number 5. So going into the second group, again, a number of powerhouses that we traditionally see: Wisconsin and Michigan. But University of Puerto Rico, Presbyterian College of Pharmacy, and Creighton are also there in the top 10. Next group, 11 through 15. So University of Wyoming, incredible match rate at, again, 77% of those that wanted a residency got it for a smaller school. Wilkes University, a private, University of Connecticut, Wayne State, and University of Nebraska Medical Center. So again, while the University of Nebraska Medical Center can say, hey, in phase 1, we've got the best match rate, what happened was that a larger percentage of the students didn't get an interview in the first place, or just decided not to kind of go forward and rank. So because of that, they're down to number 15 here, where they were number 1 on the other one. That kind of explains the disparity. 16 through 20, so Lebanese American, UCSF, UCSD, Montana, and Iowa round out the top 20. So at Iowa, if you wanted a residency, about 3 out of 4 from that first group ended up getting one. And then when we come to the last 5, 21 through 25, Oregon State and Corvallis, North Neomed, so Northeast Ohio Medical University, Temple, Concordia, and University of Toledo. So again, when you're looking, as I'm kind of advising these pre-pharmacy students, well, if you want to do a residency, let's take a look at how many people enrolled in the match and what percentage, and then also the actual match rate. So again, hope this was helpful. I just you can always go to ASHP Match Stats to kind of see how your school did. But it was, again, a little bit disappointing that we had our very first school that I've ever seen who got no matches at all. And to be fair, that school is super tiny. Like my kids' fifth grade class in that school have the same number of students. Not the fifth grade classes like all four classes, but like one single class has as many students as that pharmacy school did. And I think three of them went into the match, two got interviews, and unfortunately none of them actually matched. So you do have those relatively low match rates still around. And man, from year to year, it really doesn't change much. So which is kind of nice if you're, advising pre-pharmacy students, because you can be like, look, this is the match rate at this school. This is what it usually is. Sometimes it goes up a little, sometimes it goes down a little. But in general, those schools that already have established relationships continue those established relationships. And then those people that are in the residency can say, okay, well, we've got some kind of a common bond and you're local and those types of things. So again, check out your school, see how it goes. If you're on Tony PharmD, go ahead and write any comments that you feel about your school and how they did in the match rate. Give them some props if those students did well. So if you need me, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com.